Yes, you can go ahead. We are live.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good afternoon and welcome everyone to this 12th Women in Science event. And as you all know, that this Women in Science Forum was created to promote women scientists who are doing exemplary work in their areas of scientific studies or scientific outreach. And in this series, we have had many very well-known scientific women scientists who did great job in their work, in their fields. And today we are extremely lucky to have someone like Dr. Deeksha Gupta with us. Most of you already know her very well, but I would just like to give a brief introduction about her. Dr. Deeksha Gupta was born in Western Uttar Pradesh, and she completed her school education there itself in Uttar Pradesh and moved to Aligarh Muslim University for her bachelor's and master's degree in chemistry, which she earned with distinction and 2 gold medals. She completed her doctorate from IIT Delhi in 2012 and joined GE Silicon's Bangalore as a consultant. Subsequently, she moved to the City University of New York for her postdoctoral research and published her research findings in the prestigious journal Science Advances. After her postdoctoral stings, she decided to switch her career from bench research to scientific publishing and joined the Royal Society of Chemistry, RSC, London. She was the first editorial development executive in India and led the efforts to set up RSC in India. In 2016, she joined the American Chemical Society, ACS, and she's now working as an associate director, India. She is responsible for driving ACS growth in India, including scientific collaborations and several outreach programs for the Indian scientific community, partnering with DST, SERB, and IUSTTF. She is on the advisory board of several national committees and panels and institutes. And as a person also, I can tell you that she's very friendly and she's very approachable and she's always there to help you. In fact, I met her for the first time in a similar panel, Women in Science, in a NOST conference in Udaipur, where I've actually heard her views about this initiative. And we are extremely lucky to have her here on our Women in Science panel by Punjab University and INYAS. And now I would like to request her to begin with her talk. And before she starts, I would like to request the audience to please write down their views, their questions, their queries in the chat box of YouTube so that we can have an interactive sort of a session. So what we can have is you can write your questions in the YouTube chat box and I can convey it to the speaker and then she will go according to what you want to ask from her. So with these words, I would like to request Dr. Deeksha Gupta to please start with her talk. Ma'am, please.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Nishima Wangu, for all the patience and reaching out to me. I think this is really great initiative. As you told, we have such a big country and such a huge population of women, and creating platforms and forum where people can come and share their experience, create that ecosystem, what we all need at different stages in our life, even as an individual or even especially, I think, as a woman, which is even more required in this country. So sincere thanks to INYAS and Punjab University for this great program and extending invitation and giving me this opportunity to share my experience. So I'm like not anyone different, probably one of you. And it's just probably I picked up a little different path. And this is where it becomes interesting and people want to know more, like, how did you do it? Why did you do it? What was the background? So I think this is something personally interesting to me, share my experiences, my dilemmas and my challenges. Also, how did I navigate that? So today I will try to ponder some thoughts around and have some question for all of us to, discuss through. I may not have solutions and answers to all the questions here, but I'll try my best and, be candid here and won't hesitate to share my challenges as well, because we all do have in different capacity. So as Dr. Nishima mentioned, I come from Western Uttar Pradesh, So I will start a little bit of my background. How did I get educated and then made decision one after another. I don't have any slides because I think this is a type of interaction where we don't need slide. We just need to be ourselves and have more heart-to-heart conversation so we can really share the experiences in a more candid and interactive fashion. So I was the fourth among daughter and also like among siblings. So we have 5 siblings. I am the fourth daughter. So I have 3 elder sisters. Born in a middle class family. My father, the father I born to is a school teacher. Now he's retired as a principal, and mother is homemaker, and 3 elder sister, 1 younger brother. A big joint family. My grandmothers and my uncles and everyone. A small village, which was probably not very safe for women. This is what I was always told. So the only thing I could do in my childhood is go to school, come back and do whatever you have to do with your mother or in house. So I only had 2 things in my life at that point of time. Go to school, do studies and help your mother. And the maximum distance we could cover is the premise our house had. And we were like a lot of women in my family. So I had a lot of buas, my father's sister and a big joint family. So the narrative was, stay in house and do things over there. And the parents and everyone was very, very protective and did not wanted us to expose to some vulnerabilities and things. So this was their mindset and we were naive at that time. We obeyed and followed what they said. And probably that was the right thing to do as well at that point of time. To have more peace and harmony in the house and obey the elders. This is what we are always taught. So I had my initial schooling and education in my village, and the school was simple. We used to sit on floors, no fans, and teaching style was more candid. So all the people who are teaching you, someone living close to your house, or almost everyone. So that was a very small protective atmosphere where everyone knows you, and in house also you are doing all your household and things like that. Out of the 2 things, I found studies more interesting, frankly. So that was the only entertainment I had in my life. And if you see TV and all those things, only Doordarshan. It is not, that 50 years ago, but even in villages, 20 years ago or 25 years ago, it was the same situation. And electricity was scarce. You get electricity 8 hours either in a day or 8 hours at night. So there was a lot of fun. So that's how my whole childhood went. And then my younger brother, who sort of got admission in Aligarh Muslim University. And that was a big thing for middle class people and especially non-Muslims to get that admission. So my family decided to move to Aligarh, and that's how I shifted from my village to Aligarh. And this was, I think, the first level of shift. So you are born, brought up, educating, studying at one place, and then you change your place. So there, some change introduced in your life. And since I told you, the only thing I had in my life to do is studies. So I was automatically decent over there. I had a decent report cards. So it was not difficult for me to get admission in any school there. And the school my parents could afford was a government school again, UP board government school, but that was best in class in the city. Government Girls Inter College. I still remember the name, TR Girls Inter College, my college name was. And that was actually a cultural shock for me. Coming from a very small place, and when you come to the city, people talk differently, people walk differently, they have very different context and discussion, big class, different way teacher interact. So it was very intimidating initially to me. And I was like, probably I'm not able to cope up, adjust and things like that. But I managed to actually pass my high school. Obviously, my performance declined quite a lot, how I used to perform earlier. And that was the transition. But I think you acquire your natural self automatically, even if there is a hiccup or a transition. So my transition was nearly like for a year, and then 11th, 12th, I picked up the same school, even though we were in city, but the narrative in house still was the same. Go to your school, come home and do the only 2 stuff. So again, the only entertaining thing I had like my studies. So that was actually how the whole schooling happened. And my elder sister is a doctor. So my father thought, okay, let's have everyone in the house doctor. And then he thought, okay, and doctor is a nice profession, being a doctor. So, I mean, he was quite right. And I totally respect his intent as well. So I said, okay, let's think about. So that time in UP board, which is like 1999 and 2001, you could only opt one discipline, either maths or biology. So maths was my favorite subject, and I used to do maths day and night. And if you ask me question, I could answer in dreams as well. So that level of mastery I had, in my school on maths. And my father said, no, I think you should study bio. Then I was like, okay, but I like maths more. But I did not have courage to tell my father, look, I cannot study bio because I really love maths a lot and super obedient type of a child. And I said, okay, let me study bio. And honestly, actually struggled because I used to study the subject which I did not like. And again, study is your entertainment. And I got some surprisingly shocked rank in my 12th standard, and I was amused to see I was like the district topper there, not only in the city, but all the villages, I think some hundreds of villages nearby. That was actually quite a time and realization, and I felt actually I could do a lot more than I think. Really something feeling super excited about yourself, right? And that type of recognition and that type of attention, frankly. And actually in small cities there are a lot of ceremonies where all those intelligent kids, they are being called, and there are ceremony and things like that. And I enjoyed a lot. I was like, that's actually pretty cool. So you study and you get recognized nicely. So that was a period some time. And again, as I told you, that doctor narrative. So my father was, okay, now your 12th is over, go to coaching, like for medical coaching. I was like, okay. I went to coaching for 1 week, and I totally hated the process of coaching. And the way they were teaching, they were everything, the number of students, the mindset. And also that was the first rebel I had, or I would say the choice. I told my father, look, I will be everything but doctor because I really don't like the process. And he was like, really? So the first time, if I think under 18, I made a choice, I'm not going to study biology. And that time, I think I had good marks, so I got admission in AMU, and that was not a problem as well. That's a pretty decent university. And being in a leaguer, I mean, I had a easy sailing, BSc chemistry honors, you get over there and started thing. But the fun is not stopping here. I studied in continuously Hindi medium. I mean, that's how all our state colleges and the boards are. And AMU, I think, has this, world-class standard where the medium of instruction is English, and even it's like a little bit more polished there. That was a cultural shock for me for 3 months. I was like, whatever I have achieved so far, I'm just going to be failed because English is underlying everywhere. I have studied it as a subject, but not like the medium of instruction. But I think things got okay. And every time when you have that instinct of like, getting things done, not, feeling afraid, and knowing that you can actually do it. So graduation happened, post-graduation happened, and the narrative continued is still there. Study is entertainment, right? So what else you do? You just study and you enjoy it, and then you keep scoring marks because you are not studying to score the marks, but you are studying actually to have fun. And then that's a side effect. So that actually worked very well. And that's what you said, like 2 gold medal. I never worked for gold medal, and I never studied for gold medal. And that was also like a pleasant surprise. Oh, wow, I got it. One is faculty gold medal and one is department gold medal. That's not bad. So actually journey went until they're pretty normal, and I was in a league, pretty protected with parents and everything. Now actually the actual question came in, what after masters? So the type of background I comes in, it's pretty okay, like for girls to get married at like at 21, 22. You finish your studies, masters, you are educated, and then your parents will think about like, okay, let you just get settled. Then I did not know what I have to do, but I at least know I don't have to get married. So that was the clarity again I had in my mind. So if you see and go back, probably my life went on to the exclusion choices. This is something I don't want to do. And then I went on doing different things, which led me to, different paths and different journey. So that's how then I decided, okay, PhD seems like a better option, and I want to go for higher education. And probably I will also have an opportunity to see the world. And that's how I landed at IIT Delhi. And I would say that was the biggest turning point in my life, because there your exposure changes. Until from village you came to city, and still have quite similarity around the people, the way they think, the way they do. So you are sort of the part of that small ecosystem. But when you go to the places and the institutes where, you have variety of people, thought process, internationality, and people from all over the country, then you really get the perspective. Then you really start realizing, okay, this is not just about the word. There is much more beyond that. So PhD was, I think, typical PhD, like everyone has, a lot of fun, on and off, roller coaster ride. And but finally, I think it ended well. But even after PhD, I was not very sure about like my interest, what I'm going to do. And the family pressure starts like for women, you are this age, now this is the right time to get married. So somehow there are, those benchmarks of the right time, which I still don't understand what is that right time. So girls have that right time in typical setup to get married. And I was again not convinced, and I don't know if things are ready over there. I think there's something which I did a little interesting. Everyone goes for postdoc. Okay, your PhD happened, you have some paper, go for postdoc, apply for faculty position. So that's a very typical path. And I was also aspiring for that path, and that is an interesting path. Very good career prospects, really nice life in terms of opportunity, job, and teaching is such a noble profession. You have opportunity to do research, so nothing wrong about it. But my was more, little bug of excellence, little bug of this madness of, and probably my father told me in childhood, and he might have not realized I take everything so seriously. So he always used to tell me, whatever you do it like excellent. Do something which you really like, you really enjoy. So I continue to apply and, continue to really think through everything with that lens. And when I just finished my PhD, I felt like probably I'm not sure. And I thought, let me just take a detour. So I joined industry. That is where GE Silicons came into the picture. And I worked there one year as an industrial postdoc. And that was also another level shift for me. And then I realized, how the global corporates work and, how really are the processes, systems. And the journey did not stop there because it's still unsettling there. I had an opportunity there to get into a permanent role, but I was not sure. So something, if I reflect back and see, being honest always helped me. And not just into this mindset of, I just need a job. I just need a job. So my thought process was, if I'm good at somewhere, and if I'm doing it sincerely, I will anyway get a good job. So I was not just driving crazy in the insecurities of like, getting the job and, getting settled. So probably I was not in a hurry to get settled, frankly. And though the ecosystem around me was absolutely like that, you have to get settled. So I always used to ask the question, what is that settlement actually? Is this, really, because this is how the social benchmarking is like, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, and then you are settled. I was like, that's going to be super boring life if you do everything, in a fast forward manner. And then what do you do after that if you are just settled? So those were type of, the ways of thinking. And sometimes they appear like, little rebel, little bit like, you don't know, or, parents started thinking as if like, you are not that obedient. That's how you used to be. And a lot of perception and the misconceptions arise around us when we start really, making our choice and start living the life the way we want. So that is a risk associated with that. And I would want to be very candid. So it is not that easy. I thought I decided and I'm going to do it, right? There is always the resistance around. The moment we start doing anything off track, or the moment we start doing anything which is not conventional or the path we should have followed, there will always be a resistance. And this resistance can come from anywhere. And sometimes it's from like the closest people in our life. Sometimes it's like, from the society, which we don't know exactly who those people are, but actually that comes really from that part. So there, I think what I continue to stick to, that conviction of, if I'm doing right thing, if I'm intent are right, and if I'm really living my passion, I think one day things will automatically will fall in place. So the mindset of not seeking forever approval, or the mindset of like, not getting approved of everything I'm doing really helped me. And it was painful actually. And I actually felt rejection like from like really my close people there. I'm not doing what they're expecting me to do. So we do go through all those phases, and making choices does not come easy. And also I learned there is a cost of everything we do, we have to pay. Nothing comes in life for free. And for simple example, the cost of even taking oxygen is we return carbon dioxide, and that plant trade, right? And that's how the ecosystem works. So there is nothing free in the life. We always have to make, that decision and that offset and the balance, what is coming at the cost of what. So this is not a bad thing. The only advantage of this mentality is that we become little mentally ready, right? Where we are getting into, what is that coming up? And that gives us somewhere this resilience and a strength to deal things better. Nothing changes. Even if we are aware what we are getting into, the only difference happens, we get a little bit more prepared. And we can never be completely prepared, because there is so much surprises and uncertainty while we are actually getting into the system. But that helps. So with that PhD, and then I did not settle in there. And then I decided, okay, I need to do that standard path as well. Let me see what this postdoc look like. And I landed in New York to do that postdoc. And there, I think I got a lot of time with myself. And postdoc is a little different life versus, and also sometimes we choose. The setup was such, I got a lot of time with myself, and slowly I became, even more aware with myself, and I started recognizing my own strengths, my own choices, and started being more observant. So this is a very organic process. It actually doesn't happen in a day or in a night. We spoke to someone and we got a clarity. So clarity comes with time, and clarity comes with asking right questions, and clarity comes with, being honest with ourselves. So we need to be very, very brutally honest with ourselves at least. And then we started figuring out, okay, this is what my drive is. This is what motivates me. These are my limitations. These are my opportunity. And then we start, creating an ecosystem around that. Okay, fine. Among all these situations, this is what may be working out for me. And then getting this courage and little bit of risk to try those things out. Because it may not go the way we thought, right? I mean, there might be things which can totally get off. So do we have a even backup plan for that? Or am I ready even to handle that? So this is very holistic thought process, which evolves. So when I was in New York, actually, I got 100% clarity. I'm not going to do the bench research in my life. That was clear to me. Again, the exclusion mechanism. I will be an average researcher. I will not be able to do anything excellent. And the reason was for that, every single day I had to push myself. Oh, I have to go to lab. But if you really like something, I think you would be super excited about it. You don't have to push yourself. So that is where this realization comes. And somewhere it was scary as well, right? I spent 10, 12 years in the same path. I had my higher education, I did my PhD, and now I'm in postdoc. And now I'm thinking, you know what? I don't have to do research. So then what you are going to do? This is what I have been trained for. So I think the advantage being at bigger city or the places where we have more exposure, we have a variety. And we get our perspective validation quickly. We have a lot more examples and variety of people who are doing different things. So I really started looking for what are other options in the job if someone is really not doing, research or going into academia. And that is where the whole world opened up, which I never knew. No one ever told me. Then I realized, wow, there is so much you can do if you are not doing this research. So I started looking for options and the job where people need still PhD, but not necessarily the core research skill. And that point also I realized PhD is not just about, getting a degree and doctorate and then we are eligible. It teaches us so much soft skill. So we, learn how to deal with pressure. We learn how to manage multiple things. We actually become multitasking, right? And our sense of prioritization, working under the pressure. I mean, you name any soft skill, we actually all learn in our PhD. So I start resonating that part of, the transferable skills I learned into PhD and postdoc. And that's where I think the narrative became very clear. I still want to be in science, but I necessarily don't want to do all these things. And then I started looking the options. So here comes the interesting story. So I found this Royal Society of Chemistry position. I applied it. I got it. So I made a decision. I'm going to move from United States to India. And that time when I got it, it was a temporary position. Even it was not a permanent position. So I told my boss, postdoc boss, look, I want to try and do something else. And I'm going there. This is my career option. He was shocked. How could you do this? You are going to almost... This is very risky, because it was very risky. And what if you did not like it? What if, like, you did not fit into the role? So a lot of apprehension. Almost everyone around me told me I'm making like a stupid mistake, and this is going to be a disaster for me. And I was scared, actually. I felt as if I'm like really going to do something big. Then one part of me was like, if I won't be able to do it now, probably I would never be able to do that ever. Because now I'm free, I'm independent, I don't have any liability, responsibility. It's just I have to deal with myself. So I said, okay, let me just try out. What will happen? I'll fail. If I fail, I go to my father's schools and teach there. So I can still do something. So that type of thought process and that type of little bit madness and that type of little bit risk appetite actually helped me to pick my choices. So it was not something, brought me in my plate and say, hey, you know what, you should do it. But every stage, it was more like, if I do this, these are the consequences. And if I do that, these are the consequences, and make more informed choice. All right, I'm getting into it, and this may turn out like that. Cool, go ahead. So that has been my approach, and I'm really proud of that approach, frankly, because that makes me live the life on my terms. So when we say living life on our terms does not mean it's a simple life or easy life. It could be very complicated and challenging life, but the satisfaction is there. We are here consciously. It's not just we accidentally landed somewhere and then we are not sure what we want, how we want, where we want to go. So the perspective I want to bring in is that it's not about the simple life, easy life, straightforward life. It's literally about what I want in my life and what path I'm picking in, and am I really ready to make those choices? And then be responsible for about my own life. And this is not about only women. It's for every individual for that matter. With women, I think the extra complications are the biology and the social stereotypes. There we have to do a little bit extra navigation. And sometimes the people who are closest to us, we have to, have the most awkward and these strange conversations there. Sometimes they are parents, sometimes they are, best friends, sometimes they could be partner or sibling or our even own kids. So this is not that straightforward. And we do pay actually cost for making the choices. So right now, I'm a working mother, right? I have a 14-month-old child. I work from home. Every 2 hours, I have this conflict and dilemma. Is he need me? Shall I take another call? Shall I take another meeting? Is he going to be fine? And sometimes he just cries a lot because he just needs me. And nothing like he's not well or anything, because he just needs me, right? So women actually go through this another level of emotional turmoil, especially entering after motherhood. And there we have to deal a lot with ourselves. And often the time we feel like, questioned. We feel, sometimes even being tagged for being ambitious and being pursuing our career, very easy for us to be tagged like, not a good mother. And that is probably hurt the most. And when actually it hurt the most when it comes from the people you really rely on. So this is not like my story, your story. I think it's every working woman's story. So there is nothing to feel guilty about it. And it is again like a choice, because what I'm doing is also, as an individual, I have my aspiration. I have my life. And, when kids grow up, they have their own life. So is it like I'm going to rewind and, get everything back? So maybe I can choose a little bit different pace, slow, but it's very important to have that conscious choice. And also, I don't say someone should work or someone should not work. That is a very, very personal choice. It could be, and either way, it's fine, as long as we know what we are getting into. So I necessarily don't endorse every woman should be like a working woman or, working in the terms of like, getting money in exchange for our job. Every woman or an individual for that matter is working, because, right, everyone is working. And the house responsibilities are, I would say, bigger responsibility than anything we do, right? Motherhood probably looks like the most challenging job anyone would ever do. So we actually all are working. It's just figuring out like, the type of task and the parallel path we want to pick together. So we have to choose our battles. We cannot just randomly go into the system and then freak out. And we end up being sometime into those type of situations. So what I am learning every single day, to have those informed choices, to have a situation where at least I know why I'm here, what is that I can do, but the struggle doesn't stop there, or the life doesn't become that simple. It's just more about we feel more in control. And so, I mean, there is a lot I can keep talking about it because we all have our own stories. And even if I connect back the story and I jumped into this motherhood part. So I worked in RSC for 2 years. That was the most rewarding time of my life so far. I traveled seamlessly. I met variety of people. I got to know about the Indian science and the global science and the publishing, the people, the behavior, the project. So somewhere I found my passion in my life and my job. That is something is like my hobby. So I'm so proud. My job is really what my hobby, and I'm getting paid for my hobby. And that is what the most satisfying part of what I'm doing. So despite how much work is there, I don't feel that pressure because that comes out of the choice. And when we really do something out of the choice, we find ways to get it work. So I operate into finding the solution mindset, not the excuse mindset or not making the pity mindset. Having said that does not mean it's easy. It's very challenging, but I get energy out of the motivation because what I'm doing, I really want to do. And that continues to happen. Then I got married. I stayed 3 years alone in Bangalore. My husband was here in Delhi. That was not again easy. And everyone was asking me, is everything fine with you guys? You are living separate. I was like, really? Okay. Doesn't matter. So this is really what the stereotypes is, right? And this is really what the perception people make. Oh, you are newly married and you guys are living separate. Yeah, so what? So this is all we actually navigate because that's less normal, right? Typically, girl move to like the husband's house or the place or where the guy is doing a job and then she quit her job or find another job where, you know, everything is going fine. Or so we all go through all those phases. And that's why we have, if you see the statistics, where do all women go after PhD and postdoc? Precisely here. Because they really cannot pursue what they want to, or sometimes the family situations are that which are not conducive. And in most of the cases, I'm not saying all, but in most of the cases, it's women who end up, you know, having a secondary career because also we are at the cusp of the biology where, you know, we have to figure out the family setup as well. So it's not she's forced to make that decision, but she automatically get into this mindset of making that decision because that's what feel like the natural thing to do because every woman does that. So these are very subtle mentality which we have acquired because that's what all around happens. And that's what where, you know, we get validated of, you know, being like a good wife or good women or like, you know, the good daughter or a daughter-in-law or like whatever you say. And immediately you don't follow the typical path. You are being labeled like with all negative words, very ambitious, not family oriented, doesn't care about kids or husband and all those type of things. So everything comes like with tag, right? So immediately we saw the cost of making the choice. But am I okay with that? Again, a choice I have to, you know, weigh in. So I'm not saying the women who end up doing that is right or wrong. Obviously, they are making the best decision they can and full empathy with them. So the only thing I want to emphasize here is not only for women, every individual has this, you know, narrative in the life to make the choices. Do we make it or we just go into the flow and be wherever life takes, or we want to be more into the control and drive the life the way we want to be and have a more fulfilling life? So especially to women, I strongly advocate here and recommend all the time, be your own cheerleaders. We probably don't need that level of certification and approval which we seek because that's how we saw. It's okay to be labeled ambitious. It's okay to be labeled not such a good mother. And it's okay to be labeled whichever way we are, as long as we know we are doing the right thing for our family or for our kids or, you know, for our society for that matter. And the last thing I want to say, no one is alone until they leave their own company. We only become alone when we stop being with ourselves. And these days, especially post-COVID, that there is a huge support system available. If you are going through your situation and a, you know, challenging time in your life, try to find the people who could be a support system. Make your own support system. This is very, very important, and we all need it. We all need, you know, the ears and the hands there, you know, we can rely, we can share, we can learn, and can be ourselves. So especially at ACS, if you see, you know, we have a lot of forums and platforms, and we are paying huge attention on the diversity, the women empowerment, and the women representation. So anyone who is more interested, be the part of professional networks, the global networks, sharing the stories, or building that type of ecosystem, please feel free to follow ACS and join our membership campaign as well. It is going to be almost free of cost for a lot of people from January 2022. And also even certain benefits are associated with prices, but that is also highly subsidized here for people in India. So Nishima, I'll stop here. I went into the extempore because it all became very emotional at certain points for me, but more than happy to answer any questions if you have.
Thank you, Dr. Deeksha. Thank you very much for your very interesting story, actually, I would say, and your viewpoints about your strong viewpoints about this topic. And actually, I could really identify with so many things. I'm sure most of us would really identify with what you just said. Especially, I just wanted to uh, mention here about that being ambitious. So I always thought that ambitious is a very positive word. Till the time people started saying that so it was someday that I was speaking to one of my neighbors, and she's a good scientist. So I was just asking her out of the blue, how do you manage so well? She said, look, don't be so ambitious. This is my key, don't be so ambitious. Women have to have, they should cut some of their ambitions to handle their family. And I was taken aback with what she was saying. I thought she would give me really some very good tips, like what you were saying, how to manage things around you. And so time and again we listen to this, we hear this, don't be so ambitious, don't be so ambitious. So as if being ambitious is being selfish or being not so available for your family, while it is not at all true. We have seen so many women who are ambitious and who are managing everything so well. So I think you are very right that it is very wrong to tag anyone, be it a man or a woman, to tag them as being ambitious. And the good thing, the best thing about your talk today was, I think, it was not only for the women scientists, it was for both the genders, irrespective of the gender. You were suggesting everything. So I have one question, actually. uh, so though your talk, in your talk, you just explained about the good things, actually. So I just wanted to ask you if you ever felt that bias, because you traveled so many places, you've been to so many institutions. Did you ever really feel that had you not been a woman, you would have probably here felt more comfortable, or people would have listened to you better, or anything of that sort? I think you
So
understand what I'm trying
yeah,
to
yeah,
ask.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I can share something, and even it happens with me very often now and then, and that's where I have learned how to deal with. So the type of role and position I picked, supposed to be like, someone who is 50-ish, either little gray hair or, appearing certain way. So I never matched my appearance, or my appearance was never aligning with the position I was carrying here in country. Okay. That was the big challenge. So whenever I used to go and meet people, typically in the beginning, now since I meet with a lot of people, so initially it was for them like a barrier somewhere. The person they thought is going to meet versus the person they are
Person they
meeting is
actually
exactly
see.
like the same thing. But all that barrier went away after 2 minutes or so when we started talking and all. One instance I can tell you. So I was like for one of our events, and before the event we had this pre-mixer dinner. So the director of one particular organization was there, and I had to represent ACS. So he never saw me. Okay, just knew my name. So I was sitting already on the dinner table, like typically, and he was also sitting in front of me. He did not realize I'm like the person, so he asked someone over there, "Where is Dr. Gupta?" So this is really that type of stereotype of a woman who is
Yeah.
like little short, maybe relatively younger, probably
Yeah.
cannot be leading this position or be into this position.
Right.
So we do feel all those type of things, and this is not something I would want to blame them, because this is what they have seen it continuously, and this is all the subconscious notion into their mind goes. So here what I have started practicing and doing, first of all, I don't feel bad, because I think this is an opportunity for them to get educated as well. And all the time I try to emphasize on that point, please change your stereotypes.
Yes. Right.
We should not really have such a heavy, strong subconscious
Stereotype.
notion. And you see, Nishima, half of the application I get from the people saying, dear sir.
Mm.
Why can't be a madam over there? And most of the time, women does that. So imagine the level of the gender bias inherent within us. So all the position of power should be like the men. No, that's not wrong. And we just do it subconsciously and knowingly.
Yeah.
So
that's the subconscious bias actually. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's very strong, very
strong. So now whenever I have a talks and say, please don't write dear sir, because there could be a madam, and if you don't know who the person, just write the gender neutral, dear HR, or dear hiring manager or so, and it could be man or women. And even if you see these days in conversations, how many people when they're talking in third person use he and she? Most of the time it's he. Yeah, so absolutely. These are very, very strong points. We all need to be mindful about it. And now I personally feel, and even Nishima, my thoughts could be very strange as well. I think the moment we start talking about just individual, women empowerment will automatically happen. Let's not have this over discussion, right? So I always presented myself, someone, an individual who is competent, who is willing to do anything, capable, smart. I can do anything better than any individual, be it man or women. And that always helped me, that mentality. And even if it might be, the instance in someone's mind, they might be treating it, but I never felt it because I never saw myself like that. If you are perceiving me like that, that's your problem. That's not my problem. Right. I think that's the best way to deal with it. So you have actually given a very good suggestion, actually, how to deal with such problems. First of all, it shouldn't be there in your mind, and just don't bother about it. So that's the best thing. My gender is my personal thing, right? Yeah. It's my biology. It has nothing to do with nothing to do with your profession. Absolutely. And the next thing, which I think, so most of my friends, my colleagues are texting me. So how do you so successfully manage your family and your work? Because your work is very demanding. It's not like going to a certain place at a fixed time, coming back to your home at a fixed time. So how do you actually manage that? Since you just told you have a 14-month-old baby also, and I could hear actually your baby. Background, you can always. So it is good he's not on the screen. Otherwise, he's part of my half Zoom meetings as well. So he's the guest over there. Okay. So Nishima, this is very interesting. And let me admit over here, I had to be shameless sometimes little bit and get away from that perception of what people will think. So I always have a two choice. Either I do something or I don't do something. And I always figure it out. What is that I can do when I'm doing something in the given possible scenario? So how I'm able to do it? A super supportive spouse. If you are married and if you are marrying and if you think you need to run your career, choosing a partner is equally important or even more important choosing your career. Yes. If the person is not supportive and if a person is not an advocate of you being an individual and pursuing your aspiration and not ready to share the responsibility, it is impossible. And I have no shame in saying it. There are times where I have to rely on my husband literally. And there are days I go out for 8 hours, 10 hours. He is like my support system. And he's probably someone who understands, I'm a mother, but I'm also a professional, right? Yes. When it is being a professional, I need to do the things the way I do. And at times I have to build up the flexibility. So I am a type of organization who is also super supportive of, the women and working and provide huge flexibility. And here, Nishima, is the glitch. Flexibility is not indiscipline. Yeah, true. Flexibility is not about I do any less work or I do any less quality of work. It's just about I can do it at my own pace and the time and convenience, which makes my life more sorted. So I have 24/7 schedule. I just wake up early, 6:35ish, do my work in the morning. Then I spend some time with my boy, and then I have my another slot. So I have a very smart timetable which I have made for myself, and also a very equal partnership and a huge support system with my husband. And it is tough, frankly. Every day feels like to me sometimes a battle, but the motivation and the driver it comes in, we are able to sail it through. So it's not easy, but it's working, and it's working because I have a supportive family and I really love what I do. Yeah. Great. Yeah, I know it was very tough to actually bring you here in this forum also. It took me around, I think, really? Yeah,
8-9
and
months, I
Nishima,
think.
I was literally out of the mind. And there
Yeah.
was a phase where I have this short-term memory loss, frankly. It's like so much going on, and I promised, and suddenly I realized, oh, it's 16 October. But how could I do 16 October? Because 16 October is something else, and you feel so embarrassed because being a professional, you are known to, have your commitments, to follow your schedule. So I thought to ask you, Nishima, can we do something else? I really want to do it, but what is the way out? And thank
Yeah.
you for being so understanding and cooperative.
No, thank you. Thank you for actually taking out time. So I actually wanted to ask you one more thing. You talked about the women representation in ACS, and there are some schemes maybe available. So would you like to elaborate a bit? Because I'm sure our research scholars who are listening to it and the faculty who are listening to it, they would be very much interested in knowing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in Nichima, we have DEIR, which is called as diversity, equity, inclusion, and respect as the core value at ACS. And we try to reflect it in all our activities internally and externally. So when I talk about internally, we have a very balanced representation of women and people of different color and race to have that diversity and equal playing field. Externally, if you see in terms of our authors or our reviewers, so even to start with that, we have to first of all know what is the current state. So we are doing a lot of this analysis and the surveys and trying to understand the pattern. How many corresponding author are the women, right? How many reviewers are actually the women, and then try to deduce the pattern. At the same time, we try to have a lot more women and increased women participation on our editorial boards. If you see, there are increasing number of editor-in-chief at ACS are women. There are increasing number of associate editor, advisory board members, or any women or any positions of responsibility. We try to make sure there is a decent representation. Even if we are doing an event, we want to make sure there need to be a decent number of women participation or the speakers who are women. So these are some of the efforts, and we can never have the orange and apple comparison. Women of certain age versus men of certain age, their credential look may very different because we understand also the breaks, the biology and a lot of other things may not make things that equal. So this is more about the quality and more about the rigor and how much women themselves want to advocate for themselves. So there are ample opportunity, and these are a couple of the platforms I told. And in between, we keep running this focus group and Black women or Hispanic women and women of color. So ACS has a lot of initiatives globally where we continue to represent underrepresented communities in form of gender or in form of regional diversity.
Okay. So actually, a part of my next question you've already answered. I wanted to ask that, do you really think that comparison is justified? Especially here, I'm talking about the comparison between men and women scientists, because I don't know whether we can have the same yardsticks for their comparison, because both of them, they have different difficulty levels. So I would like you to actually go ahead with it.
So, Nishima, as I told you, the moment we are talking about the individual quality and the individual competence and the individual potential, we automatically will eliminate the gender part. How do we evaluate people most of the time? Your CV, what you have done. So obviously, if the number of hours you invested are more, if the number of years you invested are more, the outcome will automatically be more, right? And we do basically evaluate men and women that. So we don't pay attention on career breaks, right? Career breaks are considered bad so far. And I hope, they will change with time, because that is again the part of biology and people need to be aware of that. So just having number of year of experience, there we don't count break, and then we evaluate the productivity on the same benchmark, probably is not very scientific. We need to assess candidate based on their potential as well, what they have done, so what they can do. This is where the career aspiration lie, and this is where the productivity of the position will lie. Since you have done something, that will guarantee you will continue to do it. So I personally feel it should not be it is not an apple to orange comparison, but at the same time I advocate strongly the competence, potential, and the performance part as well. I never advocate just being women, I need to be entitled of something. I need to be equally competent and bring the same value onto the table, and then you think later that I'm a woman. but it may be very inappropriate considering, the number of years. And obviously I will be of higher age if I have taken like a two-year career break versus like a man. So those type of systematic processes should be changed. And we should go beyond, this number of year of service in promotions or like, the hiring and all. So I personally don't align very strongly the past setup or the current setup. We have to look a little bit more creatively and have a more rigorous process where we assess an individual, not necessarily like the gender lens in our mind.
True. That's right. And have you noticed like a positive increase in the number of female authors, especially in ACS or RSC, because you've worked there also? Or do you have any idea about that, or do you have any statistics that you can share with us?
So there was actually an INYAS report, and even ACS
Yeah.
did some analysis. So I don't have a handy number, but we did an analysis where we saw the women author before COVID and the women author after COVID. Because there was this notion like, working from home, women are like, getting more responsibilities and all, but we did not find any significant change into that. Or
That's
maybe
an
the
interesting
absolute
thing.
number, yeah. So maybe the absolute number may be different, but in terms of percentage, it was not looking, very high. But in general, I think this is between 20 to 30% most of the time. It is like 20-ish%, and which vary again by the geography. For example,
Right.
if you see All India Higher Education Report, there is nearly a 50-50 ratio of girls and boys until higher education, even until PhD. It was just 44% and some remaining percent like boy. But what happens in job?
The leaky pipeline starts.
Exactly. And most of the time, and then even when women after the break comes in, they then end up having like, the careers like this scientist, that scientist. So more like, the short-term role, short-term position, because we have this deadline of age. You need to be 35 years of like, applying
yes.
for this assistant professor position. So if I had like a family break, I won't be able to apply despite however good I am.
And the only relaxation you have probably is 1 year. So 1 year is actually nothing.
I think age should not be the criteria. I mean, up to 40 years still like, makes sense to me. Whatever are the guidelines in UGC university, probably we need to have a uniform system little bit in terms of, and even in US and all, I don't think, or in other countries, they have this much rigidness about the age. And but I'm glad we are having so many reforms in the country. We have new education policy, and then we have, STIP, and there it is really a broader focus group and the stakeholder consultation they are doing. So I'm like really excited about all these structural changes and the reforms which we are awaiting. I think first time after independence or so. So which I think really timely now to have all those reforms.
Right. Thank you for being so honest about everything. And I really liked your thing that you said that your father has always been an inspirational figure. And so there has to be someone actually in your life who is always there to keep boosting you, to keep inspiring you. And it is so nice to see that the head of the family, your father, was always there, and he actually brought you where you are today. So we thank him also. So and I really like your thing which you said, that you should choose your own battles. So you need not to prove yourself everywhere. Even if you're tagged like you're not a good scientist or you're not a good mother, just go on with what you want to do. So yes, these are the actually simple tips that we can take. These are the take home messages from Dr. Deeksha Gupta, I can say. So thank you very much, Dr. Deeksha Gupta, for accepting our invitation and discussing about your life, sharing your experiences, and sharing your life story with us. We listen to your ACS webinars a lot, but we rarely see you talking about yourself, your own life story. So we are very lucky to have you today here. And thank you so much for taking out time from your really busy schedule. And I also thank INYAS and I thank Punjab University for giving us the opportunity to have these kinds of webinar. Almost every month we have one such webinar, and we are very glad that Dr. Deeksha Gupta joined us here, and we would invite her that when things are perfectly fine, please do come over here, Chandigarh, and we'll like to have an offline lecture from you as well.
Absolutely. I would
Yeah.
love that.
And Dr. Chandra has also sent wishes to you, and he was stuck up somewhere, so he could not join
No
because of
problem.
some.
Say my hello back to him.
Yeah, sure. And thank you so much, and hope
you.
to see you again very soon.
Sure.
And we'll be listening to your ACS webinars also.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Nishima, and thank you
Thank you.
everyone who helped to make this event work. And thank you for all the viewers and participants here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.